A good morning to you, our viewers, and welcome to this edition of Focus on Parliament. Where we give a spotlight on the unfolding events at Parliament, try to make sense of them, but also ensure that we speak to each and every item that affects the ordinary citizens and try to create some sort of conversation around that. This week, a number of things came up on the floor of Parliament, and we would want to give a spotlight on the same. A number of those that we shall be looking at largely fall into the aspects of accountability and transparency. The first will be the saga at the office of the Prime Minister that touches into the iron sheets that some of the ministers responsible for different entities at Parliament, at government, are being implicated, and they received these iron sheets. Those items which were supposed to go to Karamoja. Equally, there were items to do with goats, which were equally been budgeted and were supposed to be bought and given to individuals and people in Karamoja. Equally, those are equally found alternative routes than what had been planned for. We shall also be putting a spotlight on the report on NSSF, which a select committee had been established with Parliament to look into the management, but also the governance structure and matters that have been raised regarding the National Social Security Fund, a 17.9 fund which has a huge impact in terms of economic development, but also its impact in terms of the growth of the country. My name is Kimonges Timothy, and I want to welcome you to this edition. And to discuss this, I'm joined by a panel of well and distinguished guests who will help us to break down, but also create some sort of understanding on the same. I shall allow them to introduce themselves, starting with you, Honourable.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I am Angelina Osege, former woman member of Parliament, Soroti District. I'm glad to be here, and I wish you a good listening and good viewing.
Thank you, Honourable Osege. You're most welcome to this edition.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother Kimonges. Very well, good morning to you and the two ladies. My name is Benard Odoi Onen. I'm serving this country as the Youth Member of Parliament representing Eastern Region, and I'm humbled to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
So much. You're most welcome.
Yes, a common face here. A very good morning to all our viewers. Good morning to you, Timothy. Glad to be with Honourable Angelina, crossing paths again. Onen, for the first time meeting him here. I'm the Executive Director at the Electoral Laws and Governance Institute, Uganda chapter.
Thank you so much, Chapti, and you're most welcome.
Thank you.
And probably just to emphasize that the panel here, they have always created time and offered the knowledge to in many of the platforms, at least for the Focus on Parliament, and I want to thank them for their commitment, but also always accepting to be part of the show. Thank you so much. Yeah, and we'll dive directly into this. Probably starting with the Honourable Angelina. When you hear stories of resources, items which were supposed to go to less privileged communities, changing routes, the iron sheets find themselves in the compound of ministers who actually come out and say, we didn't know that we're supposed to receive them. They just found them in the compound. What do you make sense of this?
All I say is cry, my beloved country, because I don't see sense in some of the explanations that the culprits seem to be giving. Because if I found a goat in my compound and it is not mine, don't I inquire where it came from, whether it is from the neighbors, or do I go ahead and slaughter it? I think they're just trying to play on the heads of Ugandans, and it's very, very unfortunate that these are people that Ugandans have entrusted with the responsibility of taking care of them, taking care of their resources, their taxes, and so on. We seem to have lost it altogether, because Now, a person from my village doesn't have anyone to look up to, because if the person who is supposed to look after your welfare is the very person, it's like having your security guard being the one shooting you. I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to have them as your security guard. We have betrayed Uganda. We have betrayed the people who have given us that trust. And I only hope that we as the citizens of this country will come to realize that we have a responsibility. The reasons for which you give people positions of responsibility must change. We have to look back and say, who deserves to be my leader? Why should A or B be my leader? Because then, if we don't think in that way and look at ourselves as responsible and knowing that we have the authority to determine who becomes our leader, we'll continue to cry. So it is very, very unfortunate, and it has been, to me, I call it the scramble for Uganda, because everybody seems to be trying to get what they can get. I don't know where Uganda is running to. I don't know what is happening, whether we are running out of wealth or we are running out of time or we are running out of something. It looks like people are pursuing something to satisfy themselves as quickly as possible, which is very, very unfortunate. But yeah, that is where we are.
Okay, thank you, Osege. Honourable, you represent the youth.
Yes, sir.
Who largely, you can say that, constitute a substantial percentage of the population.
Yes, sir.
And when items have been budgeted for and they find alternative ways, probably are stolen, the people who get affected, of course, are the women, the young people, persons with disabilities, and those are the people you represent.
Sure.
What's your take in this?
Of course, I must admit that I have both tears of sorrow and tears of joy. And I want to substantiate. Allow me first give the preamble of this. Under the OPM, the Prime Minister's office, there has been similar practice. We've seen interventions under Ministry of Bunyoro Affairs, Teso, Karamoja, Northern Uganda. Such practices has actually been there. Now, for this case, I want us to recall that last year, 2022, in July, the president was in Karamoja. And as a country, we've been struggling to find solution for especially the cattle rustling in Karamoja. And you realize that one of the causes is the fact that our brothers and sisters of Karamoja don't have permanent homesteads. Quite often when someone has a permanent home, they tend to live there. Even when they move, they somehow come back. But for Karamoja, because of the so many factors that has been affecting them negatively, they've been moving up and down. Now, the president on a mission to try and curtail this, ordered that they should be supported with iron sheets, so that then they can now have a permanent home, such that you go graze your animals, but then return back home, which was up to that level a very good cause. Then, of course, money was budgeted, procurement was done. Then we wake up one day when there was a whistleblower who actually had the information of the scramble of the iron sheets that was made to serve the people of Karamoja. Now, when the whistleblower got this information, State House and corruption swung into action to try and find out the veracity of the allegation. And now the tears of sorrow comes in from when the finding showed that the mother of the minister, the minister for Karamoja, had a book like this in Namsindo, registering people and giving out iron sheets. That was around January when the whole investigation actually started. If you follow the records clearly, you will find out that 80% of all these other people who then received the iron sheet was actually a month later after that investigation. Now, but we must be accountable, of course, as leaders. The population entrusted us to represent them. Now, if we have an opportunity to support a particular segment, a particular region, and then we, the leaders, or a section of the leaders, want to take this for their own selfish interest, there is no shortcut. They must be held accountable. We read on the headline of New Vision this very week, one of the ministers, Justin Kayunga here, had comfortably taken the iron sheet to roof his own poultry business. This is not acceptable as a country. This is the tears of sorrow that we are facing. That instead of us leaders giving hope to those who need our services, we are actually sucking their blood. The test is now with the several organs of state government, including the public, to ensure that we have one voice. Like one of the greatest musicians said, there comes a time when we must come together. This is the time when we must come together and address this issue and ensure that the people of Karamoja get what was meant for them. Now, the practice has been, I think it's precedented as a fact that the Prime Minister, the President, the Vice President, the Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker have that prerogative to give out donations. But the line minister, who then was on a dishing spree after being cornered, calling his colleagues the ministers and a few members of parliament, she does not have that. So for me, to the extent of maybe 80%, I have tears of sorrow because our country is bleeding. The taxpayers' money, which was budgeted for a good cause, is being mishandled, and this is unacceptable. If we were living in other countries, at this point, honestly, the minister would not be serving the people implicated directly. But I don't want to run away from Article 28, that they should be given an opportunity to make their case, read together with Article 46, that they should be given an opportunity. We cannot judge just casually. The evidence is very glaring. For me as a leader, I call upon fellow leaders, I call upon fellow citizens to rise up and ensure that the right appropriation reaches the right persons in as far as this is concerned.
Thank you, Honourable. And I think even as you mentioned that, the matter was referred to the Committee on Presidential Affairs.
Yes.
And I think they are currently looking into this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so Charity, do you think this has not been the first instance in terms of misappropriation of resources? And specifically, if you look at it from the Office of the Prime Minister, this is just many of those that come up.
True.
Is it that we fail to address these things, or it's a way we handle them that allow for other things to happen? Yeah.
Thanks, Timothy. So, most certainly, every time there is a corruption scandal, there is a vote. Because if you remember Honourable Kawakumba, there was a vote.
Yeah.
And now there are votes. I think we shall soon be calling ourselves goat scandal. There must be a goat somewhere. And even in the case of Honourable Kawakumba, that was not concluded. And for many of our corruption scandals, reports are written, recommendations are done by Parliament, and very good recommendations, just strong, firm, and they're not followed through. One being recently, they even censored the minister and said, that's why censored, we're even going to call the head of state. Finished, complete. And what happened? They are sleeping. How many months later, after censoring? You know, between me and you. But what have we seen? It's just...
It's a month.
But what was the time that was precedented for him to have responded? Has he responded to Parliament after the censor happened? Yes, Honourable name.
He hasn't.
That's okay. So coming from the horse's mouth itself, it's here. You've heard, he hasn't responded. But the bigger issue is,
Though he's
so what
still
did we
within the
see?
time.
He's actually not supposed to respond. He's just supposed to act.
We saw headlines happening. Ministers share iron sheets on WhatsApp. Wow. So Uganda has no procedures under which we procure, under which we give out consignments that are for affirmative action. I just send a WhatsApp, hello Timothy, make sure that my people in Kabera Maido have 5,000 iron sheets, and wow, I have them. No wonder one said, kill me if you want. The iron sheets, I found them in my compound because it was given to him on WhatsApp. A country must have procedure. A country must have processes under which you follow to do certain things. That is why we have a whole concept called administrative law. We have management. We have all those studies. People go and study management. People go and study administration. People go and study managing offices because there is a structure and a command, a chain of command. So what am I saying then? Do we resolve these issues is what you asked me. Every time we have a corruption scandal, do we ever resolve these issues? I think that the officers that are mandated to do investigations actually do their investigation. In the case of Karamoja, we have seen the anti-corruption unit of the President's office doing investigation. They are the ones who brought to our knowledge that the mom of the Minister of Karamoja Affairs, Goreti Kitutu, Honourable, was involved in the distribution of iron sheets. Very unfortunate, because why are we dragging somebody's mom into this?
Yeah, sure.
Then there is the son and there is a nephew. Why should we be dragging these people? Her family, her kinsmen, why are we dragging them onto the national scene? But here they are, because an investigation has established that this is it. So the investigation is well done. Recommendations are well done. But do we take action? And I think there is a place where the action falls through. The ball is dropped. And that is where we need to start. For countries like Georgia to develop, Georgia had to deal with the question of corruption squarely. There's a time when we had a president called Idi Amin Dada in this country. And he said, I will kill all of them at City Square. He just used to parade them. Of course, that was human rights abuse. And we don't want that happening in a state where we call ourselves people who promote rule of law and people who promote human rights and human rights-based approaches in managing difficult issues, even those of corruption. We wouldn't want to see a firing squad for corruption people. However, we must decide as a nation that this thing is taking us down. It will never land us in middle income status. It will never help us advance in any way. If you see the monies, if you see the monies and the iron sheets and where they have moved, and who was 25 billion. A supplementary budget of 39 was passed in 2021. Then we have 25 billion that was spent to buy these goats. See, I'm talking about goats again. 25 billion. Now, we have 70,000 villages in Uganda. If we got this 25 billion, we have a possibility of setting up a health center for each of the 70,000 villages. But anyway, who cares? As long as me, the Minister of Karamoja, I can access these iron sheets, if they can fly around and even end up in the speaker's compound, and she also doesn't know how they flew there, and if they can fly around and end up in Kaseja's compound, and he doesn't know how they didn't go to Karamoja, but they flew until they were in his compound. And then there's another one who has put it on top of his animal shed. And once the public went up in fumes, he remembers to go and take them off. I mean, if it can happen, like, why not? Here we are in Uganda on one big opera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charity. Honourable Angelina, do you think it's fair to look at this as an OPM issue? It probably is just a bigger problem.
You know, back in the day, as we grew up in the village, you had, sometimes you get infested with jiggers. When there is a jigger on one toe, the whole foot gets affected. Now, much as it seems like there is a jigger in OPM, it's only a symptom, I want to believe. And like Charity has said, there is one head over all these departments. If when it happened in one department, it was sniffed in the bud and something was done to make sure that nobody would want to repeat the same lane of action, I'm sure by now people would be very, very careful. To me, seeing what I have seen over the years, it is what is appreciated in Uganda by the leadership. Because what I notice is, if you are a clean person in government, you have no place. You have no place for cleanliness in this government. And now everybody who has to, who is in office somehow has to have skeletons in the cupboard. And why is that so? Because the head, who should make sure that you have clean people there, looks for such people who have skeletons in the cupboard. Why? Because he wants to be in charge of a people who cannot lift their voice. Because if you are clean and you say, for me, this cannot be, it is either B or it is C, and there is nothing to hold you against, you cannot stand in this government. But people with skeletons in the cupboard, it is very easy to twist them around and to turn them and say, if you do this, hey, you will see, because there is this I have about you. There is this I have about you. And two, it has come as a systematic way of carrying out or offering services in this country. Charity said it. Nobody has ever been reprimanded. From the smallest kind of crime or criminal, as long as it is with government, nobody has been reprimanded. Why? Because everybody is saying, okay, if you say that about me, how about you? I also know this about you. So there is there is each one putting the other down, because each one has something about the other. But above it all, I think the chief executive officer of this country needed to take action. But like I said, it is his system of governance. It is his way of governance. Having people who cannot raise their heads when he's doing all those excesses of his, because they have skeletons in the cupboard. And so it has become a way of life. It has become a way of life. So and so has done it. Nothing has happened to them. They have the law. They know the law. They know what should be done. Instead, actually, he comes up to defend them. There are many times that the president of this country has defended thieves in this country. The last time I heard the IGG saying, she was lamenting and saying, I want to do a lifestyle audit. What did the president say? That no, you are going into a wrong territory. These are now investors in this country. Look at that. Investors, and they are stealing from the country, but because they are putting up storage buildings, they are opening farms, they are having big businesses, he calls them investors. On whose expense? The taxpayer, that village woman, that mother of mine, that grandmother of mine, that child who has not gotten an opportunity to go to school. Because somebody has eaten the school that they should have gone to. Somebody has eaten the money that should have paid the teacher who would have taught them. That mother who has lost her baby because the doctor who should have treated her has not been paid, because somebody has eaten that money. But those are the investors. And that is what the head of state is encouraging. So why don't I also steal, because I know it is a way to become a local investor? When you steal and do something big in the country, they call you a local investor. So I think it is the buck stops with the president. The buck stops with the president. We want to see, look, in the 8th Parliament, 7th Parliament, ministers were censored. And actually the president, I think according to the law, he's not supposed to respond to that. He's just supposed to implement. and give other people who should take up those offices. He's not even supposed to respond and say, I agree or I don't agree. No, that one is for Parliament. And if Parliament has done it, that should be it. But look, the ministers who were censored in the 8th Parliament were reappointed into bigger offices even at that. We had not so long ago, Kutesa took a bribe in the UK or in the US. And what happened to him? The president defended it. But it was a bribe. And the nations were shouting about it. But here, we are saying he's a hero. He has done well. So what does that mean? It doesn't bring fear into the people who hold office to say, if I did this, this is what the law says, and I will suffer this because I have done wrong. Instead, they look forward to doing wrong because they will be applauded for it. And they'll get, you wait and see. Those people are going to get bigger appointments in the short while. They'll get bigger appointments.
Is it possible to comment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to pick up from my elder sister here, the Honourable. One is that in this very country, where you've been serving as a legislator for the last several years, I think there exists separation of powers. And when Parliament has done their part, to that extent, they have done their service. The president who then appoints is the one to disappoint. And it is within the provision of the law that it does not start and end with Parliament. But also, I want to, whereas I agree with you, but I also want you to appreciate that the same president's office, the anti-corruption unit, is the very unit that unearthed this. So after they have done their part, then there is need for our collective effort. You and I, all of us as citizens of this country, must offer leadership, must offer guidance. We just blaming alone might not offer the solution. There are organs, like you said, that are doing tremendous work. We've seen the late Odoi, Kazinda, several people have really been taken to prison for acts or missions done by them. So, and this should be continuous. There is no one fit solution that we will fix in, and then everything won't happen again. It must be continuous. We must evolve, as also the perpetrators also evolved. It is about us to stand out and say, now as Parliament, and clearly investigate the matter and offer our direction.
But Honourable, do you think it is still feasible to ride on the principle of separation of power? You've seen the 11th Parliament has actually come up with the action taken reports. They task the executive to present reports on the floor of the actions which have been taken.
Yes.
And so it has ceased to be that Parliament has done what it's supposed to do, and now it's for the other.
But the good thing is that the law provides for a time frame within which, if executive has not done their part, then Parliament is within the law, can act within the law to actually even pass. So when Parliament has done their part, when we've done our part, the law requires that the same is forwarded to the president, like for bills to assent. The same law provides for the time frame within which is supposed to act. And the same law provides for a recourse within Parliament, that if it is returned more than twice, then Parliament can own it and actually, and it becomes law. Yeah, so that provision is there. My concern is that we shouldn't get tired. We shouldn't give up. We should know that this is our country. We are not going to donate it to anyone. We are not going to surrender to those who are bleeding it off. we are not ready to do that. We should collectively fight for what belongs to each and every citizen of this country.
You know, just some of us are speaking because they say once bitten, twice shy. It is amazing you still have hope and you still believe in those things you're talking about.
When you lose hope in life itself, then you lose direction.
Just a minute. We have seen those things happen over time. It is not going to change today. You will have it in your head that they are working. Yes, it's not good to lose hope, but it's also good to face something and say that this is it.
This is what I'm saying, that we should not say this has not been working. So then what do? Do we donate this country?
No, we get out the people who are not doing it right and try another team of people.
But that comes constitutionally after every 5 years. And anyone, you and I, and everyone else, with the necessary requirements, is actually free.
It is provided you can also do it otherwise.
And so you've been offering leadership.
You can also do it otherwise, not just after 5 years. You know, there is that provision in the Constitution.
I am not aware of that.
Just talking about election, Charity is there too, and she's an authority in that.
Yes.
And probably Charity, I know you have something to say on what is the conversation, but just probably you could also give insight. Is it just the votes, the iron sheets, or probably this speaks to there could be more that's happening on the ground other than just this?
Could it just be the votes or the iron sheets? I think there is more to this than meets the eye. Because from a public administration point of view, we clearly see that there's something not right. There's everything not right in terms of corruption and how it is handled. Everything not right on how our laws are. Because he's talking about the law, but I know what the law says. Section 11, which Parliament actually spent its time talking about in the Anti-Corruption Act, talks about abuse of office and does lay out the elements for you to be held liable for abuse of office. If we put out those elements, just as a matter of litmus test, did we see the minister acting ultra vire? Did she act beyond the powers that are given to her as a minister?
Yes, she did.
And so, once the law shows that you're liable for something, then what happens? If we take her through a full court process, wouldn't she be liable for abuse of office? And isn't there a punishment of 7 years for abuse of office? Have we utilized what the law says? Are we still within the precepts of the law and the rule of law? When the law says these things, it says them because we are organized according to what the law is saying.
Sure.
If the law is saying we shall punish a person who uses their office and their authority for their own gain wrongfully, it is 7 years, why don't we go ahead and try the law? Why don't we utilize the same framework that we have? Parliament, yes, has pointed out these things, but that is as much as they do. Their duty is to legislate. That's it. We have a judiciary. But what do we see all the time we go to the judiciary? Also we have times when justice has been aborted. And that is what we are saying that, okay, so this thing is there. And every time we go to Parliament, we're going to see many reports that come up. Before NSSF, there are several other reports that had come up. Right now, they're even questioning 87 billion, which was given to a US investor. That was 2 or 3 days ago on the floor of Parliament. They're asking, how would you give this money out? Every week, there is something that is happening. Parliament is questioning in terms of accountability. And we're seeing a lot of leakage. Okay, the legislators are pointing it out, but should it stop at us seeing the leakage? When it was time for COVID and the rotten bins, it is the former speaker who came out and said, there are even rotten bins. How can you, the office of the Prime Minister, buy rotten? Have we ever got accountability for that? We have never, as the people of Uganda. And the Honourable here knows it. So when you come and tell us, oh, don't give up, let us continue pushing, how much haven't we pushed? Why don't we give a chance to our laws to work? Why do we claim we live in the rule of law? Why do we claim we know the Constitution? Why do we claim we have legal framework, but we do not want to try out this legal framework? And I think for me, that's where I say, there is more to it that meets the eye. It's
Charity.
either politics at its best, or it is poor governance, like we always point out.
I wanted to just share something with Charity here. Are you saying the process is now funked as official on as far as the Karamoja issue is concerned?
It
I
cannot
thought
be.
not.
Yeah.
Yes, so why then do we arrive at a conclusion on the same, well aware that the process is actually taking its course?
Yeah, the process is taking its course, but I gave you many others for which it has been found as official. I've given you many others in the previous past that have not happened. So why is Karamoja going to be any different?
You know,
Why is Karamoja going to be
that's
any
okay.
different?
That's okay. Karamoja has always been a jackpot. It has always been a cash cow for people in government.
Yes.
Right from Kaziwe.
Yes.
The Valley Dams, where are they?
And up to now, we are looking for them.
The first lady was there saying she's putting up model villages. Where are they? That was all money. And in the meantime, Karamoja is being impoverished to the bone. If you stay that side on that road, you'll see tons and tons of minerals being ferried from Karamoja. And what do the Karamojons get back? They can't even have food. But people who are getting these things out of Karamoja are people in government, people who are responsible, people who have been entrusted with the lives of the people of Uganda, holding our taxes, being in charge of our taxes. It has never changed. And in fact, it is getting worse by the day. That's why I said earlier, there is a scramble for Uganda. Probably there is something people are seeing that is about to happen. That everybody is saying, I must secure my future. Of course, that is the slogan. Secure their future. Because before the Titanic falls, maybe they want to make sure that everybody gets what they get out. Because Karamoja, let me tell you, in the 9th Parliament, there was an issue about, I think it was about the model villages and the dams and so on. Cows were dying, people were dying. But the MPs from Karamoja themselves never speak a word. It was us from other regions. And when you speak, the MPs will go, hey, you see, now you don't, you know it is mama. You know, and your people are dying. They are diverting the food that should go to your uncles, your aunties, your mothers, your brothers and sisters. And you are saying, no, don't talk about mama. So the MPs, the representatives of Karamoja themselves are hopeless. This time they have tried to do a press conference. I'm telling you, a lot of things have happened in Karamoja and they never speak out. Why? The state minister for Karamoja herself was part of the team that took iron sheets. I think she took 2,000 or so. How do you do that? Actually, you'd be the one saying, please do not do this. Should have been the whistleblower. But no. So where are we? Why is that? There is a fear to speak out. There is selfishness of the highest order. People don't want to lose their bread because if they speak out, they will lose their bread.
My sister here, the Honourable, comes from Soroti, which is very close to Karamoja, part of my constituency. And even while you were in Parliament, there's always that shadow of issues of national importance, which is not limited to where you actually come from. I would humbly ask her to maybe remind our viewers that specific time when because she's raising a very important question of trucks going with tons of minerals. And her constituency being the route to Karamoja and also into northern, then southern Sudan, and this side to Bugiso, Kampala, perhaps could be a factor that she actually saw this. Now, as someone entrusted with leadership at national level, apart from now blaming the Karamojong members of parliament, then you as a good neighbor, did you do your role as a neighbor's keeper? To what extent? Because even just mentioning that on the floor is service to this country, to your neighbor. I think
Honourable
I would
Odoi,
ask you to.
you have access to Hansards. You can go and search the Hansards of Parliament. And it is pathetic if you can take reasoning to that level. You don't go and make it now individual. You have to admit, if you don't admit that there's a problem, then we cannot sort it
I
out.
admit, and I'm learning from you so that I avoid what you termed the Karamoja MPs as not serving the purpose.
You have been 3 years in Parliament. What have you said? Haven't you seen these things?
Not 3 years, but it's okay.
Whether it is 2.5 or what have you said? Haven't you been seeing these things? You know, I don't want you to go to that dodgy kind of, you know,
I'm
like
not
now
dodging,
trying
but
to.
I'm just having also respect for.
No. Please, just a minute. Just a minute.
The country, they did not send anyone, because even this current parliament, we have several of them who served with her in the last parliament. Perhaps maybe they've learned.
You know, it is very unfortunate that whether you are in NRM, whether you are not in NRM, what is bad for the goose is bad for the Nganda.
That's true.
When something is wrong in this country, and I'm telling you, if things flip one of these days, we will regret the things we used to say. Because it is, you see, your brother is in a situation that is actually deplorable. But because you belong somewhere, you want to pretend to cover your eyes and say it is okay. They say what goes around comes around. I was in that parliament for 10 years. And I'm saying what we did at that time.
Thank you.
We spoke, we tried to move our colleagues, but there is a fear that is in them. Just like many of the people who are there. First of all, the way someone gets there determines whether they are bold or they are not. Some of them are like sand, which is got with a spade, whoosh, and thrown in there. And so what do they do? They say the one who calls the tune, the one who pays the piper calls the tune. Many of them are in that state. A state of fear, a state of paralysis. They cannot say the truth because they fear that next time there will be a target of the powers that be. And that is what is killing. You talk about parliament. Let me tell you, the debates that take place in that parliament today, if you are to do research and go and look through the Hansards, it's not something that you can look at and study anything. Because there is no debate. It is just bringing things and the majorities are the ayes have it. And the ones who are also leading are also debating. They make a decision even before people's voices are heard. I have watched a few times, and sometimes it is actually very disappointing. Because you see, there is no reason to debate. It is just a matter of, what do you call it? For the sake of it, to say that something has passed through parliament. But there is no debate, there is no alternative voice. If it is there, it is suppressed and it is voted without. How does somebody who is studying look at, okay, the reasoning, the trends in parliament and say, okay, there was this argument. There are no more arguments. It is one way, period. Yeah. So what are you talking about? We must admit and say, okay, this is wrong, and we have to find a solution to it. And the solution, whether it is bad to you, whether it is good to you, it is a solution for the sake of the larger part of community. I think we need to become bold enough. We need to get bold enough. The lack of boldness in this country is killing this country. People have titles that they are leaders, but there is no boldness to say that this is wrong, this is right. It is not there.
So, probably just maybe to bring new charity, what can we do not to find ourselves here again? Or it is something which is inevitable for us?
Yes. I think if you have listened to Honourable Angelina and many other people who are objecting, because for me, I hate psychophancy. I love it. And I think that's one of the reasons why wherever I go, I have been branded what I've been. I just hate it. I really hate it. I work for the people of Uganda without a pay from anywhere, from anyone. Happily. I fund it myself. Sometimes, even without any fund, I walk on foot to work for the people of Uganda because I believe in being a Ugandan. I believe in a good country. I believe in proper processes. I believe in good service delivery. And that is why many times I look at Parliament and I think, what a hopeless house we have. Indeed hopeless. Because who are you representing? When they sent you there, they had hope. You're going there to do work for them. They can't understand laws. They can't interpret them. They can't debate them because they are ordinary people. And so when you reach there and all you think about is self-aggrandizement and positioning yourself, you just become a hopeless person onto this nation. So why are we where we are? We need to start by being honest with ourselves. What do we want for our country? What do we want for ourselves? We should stop thinking about for God and my stomach. Let's think about for God and my country. It is a motto that exists in Uganda. And that motto was created that we will think about the greater good. I talked about the billions, the 25 billion. And I told you for 70,000 villages, we can happily have set up health centers. Beyond the health centers, if I didn't want to talk about health centers, I can talk about schools. Because there are people who are still studying under trees when it rains. And there are people who walk miles on foot. I can talk about water. I can talk about the poverty. In Karamoja, we saw women bearing children. A woman lost 3 children, dug holes, and put in the little things. They were looking like rabbits in the holes. That is when you see a level of dehumanization. That is what has happened in Karamoja. And so when you see this happening for Karamoja, and then we sit down for us in our happy Kampala, and we see how iron sheets have flown there in Chivale, they are in Soroti, they are everywhere, and then we seem to rub it on top and walk away and go happily back to our houses and sleep. What human beings are we? What have we degenerated to? So we need to come, one, as Ugandans, we need to wake up to the plight of our friends. Why are we in leadership? We're in leadership to help people who are struggling. So if the people of Karamoja, and he started well. I thought he started well. Because he said the government looked at Karamoja as a region. There were 3 major problems there. There was cattle rustling, okay? There was hunger. There were high poverty levels. And then there are these arms, you know, these small arms, soft arms that were making their way into Karamoja. And so there was always war, people one against another. It's very quick. You can turn the heart of one Karamojonga against the other by just saying, he stole 20 of the cows. And they will kill all the other people without ever thinking about it because simply his cows were what? Stolen. Because he's a nomad. So government sat back and studied these trends over a period of time. And we also know, like Honourable has said, Angelina, she said there are about 50 minerals that are seated in Karamoja. There is uranium, there is cobalt, there is gold, we could name them. There is limestone. There are so many things. We import gypsum. Guess what? Karamoja has raw material for gypsum. So when you see the law gives government the right to manage those minerals and resources on behalf of Ugandans, but does not give them the right to mismanage them. Okay? So when people ask for accountability, it is because you're managing something on behalf of those people. And so if we don't want to be where we are, Timothy, and I hear that is what you ask, 2 things have to happen. Every leader should stop working for God and my stomach. And every leader should accept to be accountable. And we must let the rule of law take charge of our country. What does the law say? The law says these minerals will be managed on behalf of Ugandans. The law says that government will deal with the questions of poverty. Up to now, we have 75% of households in Karamoja, according to YouBoss statistics, when I was coming here, that is what I was reading, who cannot afford a meal a day? Do we have Karamojongs on the road here? We do. Who brings them? Why are they here? How are they sustained here? And what is going on? The MPs of Karamoja, for the first time this time, they've been at press conferences, the ones who are in parliament right now, and they have called for accountability. They have said, Honourable Minister, help us step aside. Let investigations take their course. That hasn't happened. Can we see it happening? Because you're saying, how do we get away from here? How can we ensure we don't get back to where we are? At least if we can have one person say, in my heart, I am a leader, I am Chitutu, I love to have money, I love to care for my home, I love to, but for once, I have accepted, let me step aside, do investigations. If I'm found to be innocent, I'll come back and I will serve my people. If I'm found to be guilty, I will go for good. And we'll get another person to serve. So we need to have accountability getting to the end. For justice to happen, there is always a punishment. The punishment is there to prevent other crimes from happening, sometimes to correct, sometimes to set an example. All those are different things that are done for people to feel justice has happened. But if justice is aborted, like it has always been done, then we're going to be back here over and over and over
again. Honourable, probably to just also give context, how do you ensure that Karamoja, despite the wealth, all these resources, minerals, charity missions, and the resources that government has injected to Karamoja and the northern region at large, get value for money, but also the people see and benefit of all these resources?
Thank you so much. Now, the issues affecting Karamoja is not new. Research has been done. Experiments, I think government has been here for a while. It is no longer time for experiment. Solutions is what should be done. I want to start with still leadership. Karamoja is a sub-region having 10 districts. With a very big, quite a reasonable number of members of parliament. I believe collectively, starting as a content from Karamoja, they should be accountable. One, to their own voters back home, that they have been given the mandate to offer leadership to hundreds of thousands of fellow Karamojongs and non-Karamojongs who ply their trade within the areas of Karamoja. Now, government must also be pushed to account equitably for Karamoja. It is not the first time, like I indicated in my preamble, that the president ordered, guided, that in pursuit of this, let's offer them the iron sheets. And there is a ministry that also forms part of the executive. So to the extent that the ministry or the minister now, the ministers implicated, there is no shortcut, they must be held accountable. Government must design ways that is suitable to the problems of Karamoja. The people of this country should join Karamoja, but Karamoja should be at the forefront. That there is no way they should be isolated. Because if you look at this country, almost in everything, Karamoja is like isolated. If it is now insecurity, I think it is only Karamoja that is insecure. It's about poverty, it is Karamoja, number one. if it's about social services, education, medical, Karamoja tops that on the negative perspective. As a country, it is around this time that we should demand and ensure meaningful investment, meaningful startups. We can start with the youth.
The goats were for the youth.
Yeah, this is
every youth was supposed to get 16.
This is what I'm trying to bring out.
Each household.
The youth, actually, when the minister presented the paper to the steering group, it was the youth. Each youth, okay, it was household, but they identified the youth in that house.
Okay.
And even that approach does not satisfy everyone from Karamoja. I know a number of youth from Karamoja who are now into tourism. Now, if you give them goats, which breed is actually not of their breed, how then do you expect them to actually venture into that? I would think a study should be done, but studies have always been done. Segment those who are interested in, say, tourism. And Pio now is one of our newest tourist attractions, and it is found in Karamoja. I've been there. I know several youths who are engaged in tourism. Support them in that. Build hotels so that a tourist who comes will actually be there, spend some money. By doing that, you are empowering the locals. Those who are still interested in cattle keeping, find a better modern way of helping them. If you're speaking about famine, look at can we design crops that can be sustainable in that condition? Can government have interventions to that effect? We have several of our brothers and sisters from Karamoja who have been through school. They have diplomas, they have certificates and degrees. Can we have several of them being considered? If it's joining army, consider them. Give them special arrangement. If it's police, give them. If it's public service or ministries, give them special attention. If it's about scholarship, the scholarship that now, as youth representatives, we are actually not happy with, the loan scheme. Can we have a special arrangement that people from Karamoja, because of the so many factors, they are not able to compete with these other ones from other sub-regions to get to the maximum point that will then qualify these ones? Can we have that special consideration? And also skilling centers. Can we have skilling centers in these very areas? Karamoja is known for cattle keeping. If you build their value addition, that these ones who are engaged in cattle keeping, if they sell their animals, because of the facilities of processing, maybe beef within that area is available, they will earn fairly well. They will concentrate on that. Then, if there is no one benefiting from this, how does government fail to stop the issue of guns? We had LRA, the other side. Now we pursued ADF, the other side. And as a country, UPDF has done so well. Now Karamoja, it's not a rebel faction. Government should really be accountable to that.
LRA in Teso was fought off by the Itesa themselves.
Yes. So government should come out and really offer meaningful leadership and services to our people of Karamoja. Okay. And now that we have...
But they thought the goats were meaningful. You see, where...
No. My point is the goats would be meaningful. But the breed...
was the problem.
The breed of the goats was not for that condition.
For the weather.
Also the mindset. If we leave this studio and we walk out and they give you goats or cows or pigs, your mind is not prepared for it.
You sell them.
You've been in your own trade. you are not prepared for it, you'll easily sell them.
Others
Even
will die.
when you
They will rustle them.
even when you don't sell them, because of the conditions, they will die.
Yes,
So you can't
right.
even blame them. So there is need for special attention to address this.
So were the goats wrong?
I have submitted on that the goats supplied there
Were not suitable for
were
their
not
environment.
suitable for that condition. But even the people,
Their
the
mindset.
beneficiaries, the mindset was not. Then also the type of goats, it is not free range. These guys are used to free range. Have your goats sit there, roast your maize, and they are eating. But the breed that was supplied, you need to have a shed. You need to have that.
You know, Honourable,
That
you
was
know,
not there.
that alone makes you realize that the intention was actually not
Well planned. There was
Yeah.
misplanning.
because
there was
whoever
discoordination.
plans for Boer goats for Karamoja, I don't know whether that was really well intended to benefit the people of Karamoja.
Of course, that is why I segmented. And I say the leaders from that very place should be accountable. Because they are representing these people. Any discussion of interventions reaches them before the ordinary persons back in Karamoja. And so they ought to mediate and communicate and actually communicate and reject. They would have rejected this before even
But
the
the
dispatch.
leaders, 2-3
I
leaders
said, this
said
cannot
they
work.
rejected the goats and asked for tractors. But here is how it works. From government systems, you know, you do not reject something that has already been planned and agreed on. You reject at the point of planning.
That is the point I raised. That
So
because they can't plan without their notice. They are aware. Normally the planning, they are involved. Yes.
So they rejected once the goats were bought, and they suggested alternatives. They gave 2 alternatives. Buy our local breed. We have local suppliers here, which was ignored by the office of the Prime Minister, and that is also a problem in itself because during implementation, anything can happen.
Exactly.
And if this is what was happening, the Boer goats were dying, then a minute should have been written, a loose minute. Because this is public administration, this is a taxpayer's money. So you write a loose minute and you inform all the stakeholders that this is the reason why we are changing to buy local breed. We cannot have the Boers. The Boers we had, we probably would use them for elsewhere, or we shall use them in Kawanda or another place, or we shall sell them, get money out, and get the local breed for Karamoja. That didn't happen. We didn't see any loose minute. Instead, what we saw was the price for each goat going at 800,000, and yet the local goats were going for 100,000. So we are back there. You know, Kamunguruze just, I mean, something is not right.
Yes,
Back there, we look at the price. When do we benefit most?
The price for me. Well, it's an issue, but this is something that came later. I have ever bought a goat
At 1 million?
No, at 500,000. And that goat, the breed, is 4 times the ordinary goat. And also it produces 3. For me, the issue is, at the inception time, when government is planning, leaders from Karamoja must be involved. They have all the ground to reject a plan that does not benefit their people. And they would stand on camera and address. They would even call a press conference and say, for reason A, B, C, D, we are not accepting the government offer of these goats because they are not sustainable with our condition, because our people are not prepared, because our practice does not benefit this. And for me, so the blame for me, I apportion to my colleagues, the leaders, government, in that 50-50.
Thank you so much, Honourable Odoi. And we'll take a short break and get back and look into the other item that we're supposed to discuss, the NSSF, state of the NSSF governance and the issues that had been raised there too, but also the report that was presented before the House and the recommendations. We'll get back right after the break. Thank you.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back, our viewers, to our discussion today. And on the first segment, we looked at the saga at the office of the Prime Minister, highlighting and including the iron sheets and the goat scandal that is currently ongoing at the office of the Prime Minister. And now we go back and look into the other matter that came out on the floor of Parliament. And this week, the Select Committee, which is chaired by Honourable William Parker, presented its report on the NSSF management, but also there had been concerns which had been raised before then, for which the Select Committee was instituted by the Speaker. The report highlights a number of recommendations, but key among them is the minister's position that she should resign following her issues to do with the money, 6 billion shillings that had been implicated. But also the committee also recommended that the NSSF board be disbanded and a new board be put in place. The committee also highlighted there a raft of recommendations for which we look forward to House considering them and debating, and we shall be looking for that next week. But as of now, the committee has presented its report. A number of irregularities are highlighted, and we hope that the Parliament will look into this, but also create sense within the NSSF board. And I just want to bring now on board my panel and to hear what they have to say regarding this matter. Starting with you, Honourable Angelina Osege. What do you say about the ongoing events at the NSSF?
Wow. When I looked at the figures that were attached to the different personalities, the different people that are implicated, I quite didn't understand what it was all about. I thought probably the monies were allowances to the board members or but it looks like it is monies that were gotten over and above their sitting allowances or whatever they are entitled to by law. Really, it is not different from what we've been discussing, because it is all about people who are taking advantage of the positions, the trust that they have been given, whether they are appointed to those offices or they are elected to those offices, or whatever way they are in offices in trust on behalf of somebody else, on behalf of Ugandans. I think because one, I would agree with the recommendations of the committee, some of them, because I can't say which one and which one, but I think I agree with their recommendations because the board is appointed by the minister. Am I right?
Yes and no.
And well, it is ratified at another level, but it's the minister.
The Boards Act, NSSF has a board act, which is followed to a point.
Yeah. But when you look at the persons who were appointed and looking at what they did, to me, I think it is only better that they are relieved, they are disbanded, because they are not yet a year in that position. They are not yet a year old in that office. And already things like that. Okay, in spite of the fact that there has been confusion in NSSF, there are a lot of fights in NSSF. The former MD, I don't know whether he's former or he's still current, is fighting for his position. And why would a public servant fight to retain a position that you have served for a number of years, more than 3 terms, I think, and now you are being told to retire from it, and you are fighting so hard to stay there? That alone speaks a lot of things. That speaks volumes. So to see them doing what they are doing, it is still a bonanza, my brother. It is a bonanza. And still people think that is an opportunity to eat. But how I wish that we would see heads rolling on these issues. Whether someone is innocent or not, I have seen in other countries, the Prime Minister of UK, it was just, what was the issue? Something that wouldn't require him to resign. But you know, because
in Africa,
yes, his words seemed not to go well with the people, and it seemed like he had put them to shame or something. He resigned his office. But here there is even evidence of people abusing office, and they can't even step aside. They cannot. They have no remorse at all. I remember in I don't know which year that was, the late Sevagala. Saya, when he was arrested in the US and put in jail. By the time he came to Uganda, he was a hero. That is when I started realizing that the minds of Ugandans have gone to another level. They applaud, they glorify evil, and they ridicule or do not appreciate good things. And when people begin to glorify evil, then you ought to worry. Because now there is impetus to do evil, because that is what is acceptable. That is what is understandable. When they gave us 29 million in Parliament, in the 10th Parliament, I think, and some of us returned that money. They said for consultation, blah, blah. And we took back that money. Let me tell you, the citizens, some people in Soroti told me, you would have brought it to us. You think because you are born again, you don't want curses. You bring and let the curses be on us. I said, I am there to stand for you. What is bad for me is bad for you. But you see, people have also reached a level of saying, whether you do good, it doesn't add up to anything. So you'd rather jump in the pool, swim in the mud, and do what everybody else is doing. So even those that seem to have a little integrity seem to think that their integrity doesn't count. So if you have integrity in this country, you are the one who will die poor.
That's true.
So everybody is forcing themselves to say, okay, my kids, what will happen to my children? What will happen to my this? What will happen to my... So it has become me, myself, and I. So the saga in NSSF is not different from the saga in OPM, is not different from the sagas that have happened before, and they will continue happening. So, but what do we do? How do we get out of this? One, the way people are appointed into offices must change. There has to be respect for the different arms of government. Up till now, I don't know whether the 11th Parliament has changed. The decisions of Parliament are taken as advisory. We fought to change that and say, this is an arm of government. Its voice must be heard. When Parliament has decided, nobody else should say it is wrong, because then government will not be flowing. Because for government to perform, it's like a chain of a bicycle. If it falls off from the back, you cannot ride that bicycle. If the chain doesn't roll on and continuously, then government is not running. So the problem is government has lost respect for its own systems. Now government is, what is government? It is people who are there in government. Because government is not a basket, it's not something. It is human beings who are in government. And a human being, by nature, is always prone to flow in a direction that seems to be acceptable. Even if their mind may tell them that that is wrong, I say, but this is what is acceptable. You see now, buying of voters, because it is what is acceptable. It is what people are hungry, they need money, so you go ahead and do it. You may not believe in it, but you'll do it because that is how to survive. So heads must roll for NSSF, heads must roll wherever we've had this kind of thing. Let's forget about what has happened before. Let's at least have a start somewhere, because some of us have lost hope. Our hope needs to be restored. At least let somebody step aside and say, okay, during investigations, I'm stepping aside on their own volition. Not even to wait for someone to tell them, get out. That would show a certain level of responsibility. But you know, they used to tell us there was one MP who has ever resigned in life. Who is he? From Bali.
Kipoi.
Not Kipoi. Kipoi was arrested.
Hey, the one who was a youth MP who replaced
Jatana. And since then, no other MP has resigned because it doesn't make sense. You
what
resign.
Was his reason?
Things will, because of the corruption, because of the way Parliament was doing things that was not acceptable. He said, I cannot be part of this kind of thing. He got out. But what did he achieve for the people? Nothing. Nobody picked it and said, okay, now this is an example, so this should. Nobody. So
thank you, Honourable. And probably, Honourable, how do we ensure that the House does not remain a house of reports? That actions, and this I'm saying, understanding that you're going to consider the report next week, the resolutions there too considered. How do we avoid the House not turn just a house of reports, but heads must roll, as Honourable says?
If just to answer that directly, the answer would be the legislators should then be given sufficient time to debate on the finding, on the recommendation of the report. That would be the obvious answer. However, I would wish to delve a little bit on the foundation. Allow me start by crediting the tremendous improvement that we've seen over the years. That as we speak, our stand now is to the tune of 18 trillion as NSSF.
Yeah.
On paper, huge achievement. We thank the team. We thank God for them. But if you look at the administration, what has been happening, there are so many salient features. Even before the report, you would really see there's friction between the two ministries that is charged with supervision of NSSF. That is the Ministry of Finance and then Ministry of Gender. Now, because people who have been entrusted to supervise this huge collection entity of the savers' money are in fight, the savers, the ordinary citizens, people who toil a lot to have their saving to cater for their future, are now at the mercy of the ring that is being shared between NSSF, Gender, and then Ministry of Finance. There are so many glaring issues that we don't need specs to look at. I can give you an example, regardless of the successes that they have registered. I can give you an example. We are living in a country where for a youth to go to the bank to ask for loan of 1 million, they will ask for bank statement, yet you've never worked. They will ask for security, yet you don't even own a goat. Yet the youth form the core of this country. They are engaged in so many businesses, but they don't have access to even the basic of finances. That would help spark economic growth and development into this country. You wake up one day, then the MD of the board is recommended to the board of the Clay's factory company. Then a few months later, he's sharing the audit of the same organization. And a few months later, the same organization is given billions of money, taxpayers' money, without security, without guarantee. A company where you expect that the head of this NSSF, the MD, is aware that this is taxpayers' money. We are holding in trust. If we are to do investment, there should be scientific research. There should be research that where we are going to put this money, at least it will generate. How do you then wake up the MD and the team and put billions of money on an entity that has not made profit for the last 10 years, but you put in billions of money? You're part of the board, you're the MD here, you shared the audit, but you clear the money. That is the worry of the taxpayers, of the savers, of the citizens of this country. Even those who have not taken that path, they don't see any reason to do the same.
You know, that is just a conduit. You pass it through that dead organization.
Yeah, because if a citizen of this country who is toiling, who is the future of this country, cannot even be helped. But an entity where you can do audit and really find out that where we are going to put our money is really a lucrative business, but that is not adhered to. But also, I want to, whatever is happening now is actually, has been symptom that has been existing from some years back, maybe 7 years back. The current board was constituted by Minister of Gender. Most of the finding actually goes back to the board that was constituted by then Minister of Finance. Now that should form part of the conversation. That even as we apportion, to what extent do we hold this culpable? To what extent do we fault this? Minister of Finance, Minister of Gender, engaged in their own wars. Someone has reached the retirement age, and then there are laws in this country where you only need to open and then write a letter and make reference. Referring to this provision of the law, I hereby, and that should not be debatable. If you look at the board that was created, it is not gender sensitive. This time I'm not speaking about the youth. I'm not saying there should be a youth on the board, but I'm saying where are the women? In Africa, in Uganda, and almost world over, at least I can declare this, there is at least that trust for the women.
The law says 30%.
Now, even the practice here, before you even look at that, at least there's that trust. Now, if it is also coded in our laws, how do you then wake up and constitute a board? For me, it starts from there. The constitution of the board itself was a nullity. Where are the women? Where is the gender? You look at the inclusion of...
and it was constituted by the Minister of Gender.
You look at the constitution of... the workers' union. And you find that this one is the Secretary General of this board. The wife is some legal something.
Yes.
And because they control, these are briefcase workers' unions. They wake up one day, sit like here, switch on one light, get a pen, and then make a resolution. On the meeting sat on the 3rd day of March, we agreed this, and they signed. Then they recommend. The ministry, both ministries lacked even capacity to do due diligence. You don't just receive a letter and act on it. Why are you rushing? The mens rea and the actus reus. What is guiding you? What is in your mind that you are running so fast? Now, what the idea of investigation is also to find out what was their mind, what was the intention, what is the actus reus, what is the mens rea, what formed this. That a letter comes and you just say, okay, now you start work. How? Later now it is confirmed by Parliament that it was actually husband and wife. How does that happen? Then a lot of money is shared within these two workers' unions. And then there's a syndicate. She withdraws money, and me, you and her are waiting. The moment she gets out of the bank, we take the money. Then another time the other one is also withdrawing the money. The money meant for the organization is just casually withdrawn. Yet we also have regulations by Bank of Uganda. Certain amount of money, I think from 10 million, you must clearly indicate. Then 200 millions is used to train 3 members in Dubai. How? There is also something that the viewers should be interested in. When the new board was constituted, actually, there was communication for travel for almost 2 months. That they are supposed to travel. Their work, these are not travel agents.
Did we have somebody who traveled?
These are not travel agents. How then do you want? That also brings in the issue of the intentions. What formulated this? Let these ones travel, then for us now we pull the table and calculate the deals properly. It is around this time that we need to be counted, at least to the extent that we should declare that so and so is not fit for this, and they should not be there. We need to even get to a level where if we are constituting a board that is going to oversee almost the equivalent of our national budget, there is scrutiny by the public. And if Charity is there, let the public have a say. If Onen is there, let the public have a say. If Osege is there, let it be that free, that open, so that the savers, the citizens, are certain of the direction, because the money is from sweat.
Thank you, Honourable. And just to clarify what you were mentioning, mens rea, actors rules, just our viewers not to confuse. These are monies. Actors rule, I think, is the intention, and the mens rea is the intention. The actors rules is the act, and the ingredients of offenses. The
intention that made you to act, the intention that made now these guys to act the way they did.
Thank you. Charity, probably just to give it a twofold approach. Do you feel safe as a saver of the NSSF?
Maybe you should find out if she saves that.
She's actually a saver, I think. Probably just to say how most of the leadership at the NSSF since in the previous years, most of them leave the fund and straight to the histories. How do we avoid this kind of thing?
Bakoko ran to the US.
Yes, Bakoko ran to the US, and I wanted to start at Bakoko.
With $4 million.
So she ran to the US.
Asylum.
Then we also have others who are here in New Zealand, but unfortunately, people say they are serving for other people. There are other people for whom they are guilty. Oh, it's the small rat that goes. They said when 2 elephants are fighting, who suffers?
What are the people in New Zealand small?
It's always the grass. But as a server, I think it is unfortunate every time NSSF comes out. And every time it is in the limelight, but we are also getting used. One, we are required legally to save there. If we had a way, honestly, we would not save there. It was a good idea from the start. And so people thought they could benefit. For me, I have actually started a new advocacy campaign. Everyone who has 50 million, let the government give it to them. If you have saved and your money has gone beyond 50 million, let them pick 50 million and give it to you, other than reading that 3.3 billion was spent on bonuses for employees. Imagine that in 2 years, 33.3 billion. Now let's add on the 25 billion, which I talked about for the goods.
But isn't that an appreciation? Because that 33 point something billion
33
is actually 0.1% of the interest. So I think with all fairness, if it actually serves that it goes to the workers of NSSF who have devoted their time and expertise to achieve this, for me, I have no problem to that extent.
The workers, to that extent, you have no problem. Thank you for submitting, Council. I wish to submit. I wish to submit. Yes, because Council said to that extent he has no problem. I wish to submit. These workers have a salary, okay? And they are paid. That is my contract with them as a saver. I benefit nothing from NSSF completely. And yet, on a monthly basis, my money,
interest. There's interest.
Where is the interest, which they just announced for me on the phone? Or this year, having not done so well, the dividends were not so good, so your interest is this 0.03. And then that's it. So finally, your balance is this. And they plug it there for you. In terms of bonus, the real person who should get the bonus is me, the saver. You should give me enough bonus, not you, the employee. You're there just to... If I had not put my money there, would you have a job? I submit. Would you have a job? Would you have a job? So remember the original owner. And the original owner is the saver. So for me, this self-entitlement of we are going to even give out bonuses because people have worked so hard. 2 years, you're giving them 33.3 billion. How come I've not seen any companies? New Vision here, do you know how many hours we worked when I first worked in New Vision? We used to work from 8 a.m. to midnight.
Maybe
and
you are not,
8 a.m.
you are not making profit.
My friend. So what are you trying to say? And we were even on the stock market.
But it's on their HR manual that when they hit a target, there is a bonus. And also, of course, that does not diminish my interest of the savers. They should be protected. I am simply saying the savers should be considered first, their interest. But also the staff who are there doing the donkey work. They when they are appreciated, I think it's within the HR manual. And it's within the law.
And if you're going to appreciate them, what is the percentage? You know, I haven't read the law to know how much is their percentage, but according to the report of Parliament, it seemed to be exorbitant. And that's why Parliament is raising it here. When they put it in the report, that one of the reasons why they recommend for the board and the ED and the deputy ED to step aside was this extreme amount of bonuses for the members of staff. That was one of the issues that was raised by the report from Parliament. Also, the report from Parliament raises the issue of the 10%, which the board members were giving themselves. 10%. Oh, yeah, regular. They said that was irregular with the Act.
That's true.
Okay? So, and that's it. So it was a cash bonanza. That's what Parliament is telling us. Parliament is telling us, even if you had to give a bonus to the employees, it is not supposed to be to this tune. And go read Union Parker's report.
I have read that. I can actually make a very authoritative reference to it.
Then he also tells us about the 10% contributions. These are the issues that he is raising as grounds
which
for
I agree
these people's dismissal. And he says, the minister for her, it is the 6 billion. The 6 billion, why was she asking for the 6 billion? Is what he says in his report. And he says, one, it had no force of law. She just asked for it. He said it had no force of law. That is the report that I have read from Parliament. Now, he says, she said this money, the 6 billion, was supposed to grow the fund. How? They were not seeing how that was going to happen. And so they said, in the interest of organizational management and administration, let the minister step aside for purposes of investigation. Of course, that's not going to happen because we didn't see it happen even with Bakolo. She ran off with whatever she ran off with. And the minister herself has come out and said, come sun, come rain, I am not resigning. I am not resigning. We also had the one who told us, even if you want to kill me, kill me. But the iron sheets found their way into my compound. So I mean, that's it. That's it. So we have been relegated to this fate. As a saver, we have no say. We have a huge say. And then we have, I have no say as a saver. I am here. I am a saver. And if you put my name there, you will find that I'm actually a saver with NSSF. But I have no say because poor me, Bambi, what can I do? My money is also in the pool, being taken to estates. Building estates in Luboa, and
being taken to Clays.
Being taken to Clays, being taken for holidays in Dubai, paying bonuses, appointing people who can take 10%, even relatives sitting like what you explained, the bedroom affair of signing minutes. What can we do?
You should not be lamenting about the bedroom affair for NSSF. We started bedroom affairs a long time ago. We have the main man, his wife, the son, the daughters, the brother, everything.
No, but so if you read the law, that is a little. I don't agree with you, respectfully. The human resource, but my submission is leveled. I am not for anyone. My point is the HR manual is very clear. When you cannot appoint, I am the manager, then I appoint my 2 sisters, then I appoint my brothers, then I bring in my cousins. The other appointment, executive appointment, is different from this, unless you can quote otherwise. If there is any
in the law, but morally unwritten.
And now we are discussing matters.
No. There are laws that are not.
What
written.
is immoral?
What is immoral?
In that? What is immoral?
How do you hold that person accountable?
It is not you to hold them accountable. It is the other people.
You are the appointing authority.
No. When you separate powers, you the executive, you don't.
No, come on.
Maybe now as a way forward.
Timothy, I think the last thing that this report raised, which was also very important, was the 1.8 billion between
the one of phones, of text messages, WhatsApp.
Corporate social responsibility. That is what they branded it as. But it was money meant for the Diarga, the executive director, and the deputy executive director. Okay? So Parliament was saying, when you tell us the CSR 1.8, what is it exactly? And after probing, they could not place that money. And so they are demanding that these people also leave office on grounds of abuse of office. And we've already explained the elements for abuse of office. You've been assigned with a job. You're supposed to do it for a public interest, or you've been assigned to do a job by law, and you fail to fulfill your duty, and there is a punishment for that. So how then do we prevent this? Let us see the law take its course. Of course, Parliament, these are mere advisories. The Prime Minister made it easy for us. His name was Apollon Sebambi. He stood at the door of Parliament and told us they're merely advisories. So we know that everything they've written, however biting, how hard, it is merely an advisory.
I beg to just give a clarity on 1.8 billion, because specific to that,
CSR.
It does not bring in the deputy. And I want to quote, with your permission here, make reference. The committee reports it noted abuse of power, influence peddling, and circumvention of process Committee noted that when the issue of 1.8 billion budget for corporate social responsibility, Mr. Biarugaba shared with the committee from his phone the itemization of 1.8 billion, which amount went to Notu, Koftu, Minister, Board, and Chair. There is nowhere it mentions, actually. It is the recommendation that brings in the deputy, which was a mistake in my interpretation. Because if you read the entire script, there is nowhere where he comes on board. It goes ahead to indicate that when Mbarara, he got his phone, and for the team to verify this, they went to CID. And that was
The printout.
Yes, the printout. That does not touch his deputy.
Thank you, and I know this is a matter that's still ongoing.
True.
And next week, the House will debate it and probably even give it a more clearer path and probably the way. Our hope is really that there is more action, there is more trust built for the institution, so that you have more savers.
The speaker, says she's going to expose the mercenaries. I don't know if my brother is not a mercenary.
But I now mercenary because I have apportioned finance, gender, the board, the MD. Maybe I'm a mercenary for the savers.
But in the meantime, what was that social corporate responsibility about giving those individuals?
Exactly, that's what Parliament was asking. And Parliament could not come to terms with that CSR.
That is why the conclusion is that this money was meant for
what?
Maybe they're
what?
No, for the people implicated. The MD, the board, the finance guy.
Yes,
the
so
minister.
what did they do with it is what Parliament asked.
It is not indicated.
Yes, so that's what I'm telling you. It's a cash bonanza, poor ass.
But I agree with you entirely. Because they didn't justify why 1.8 billion was apportioned. I am actually saying all of them. The MD, the two ministers, then the board, and the guy of finance.
You be there sleeping.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think
you ate your portion.
Next week we shall be here and we shall consider debating this matter extensively. Thank you so much, Charity, for sparing your time and being part of the conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you, Honourable Odoi. Appreciate it. Honourable Angelina, thank you so much for always accepting to be part of our conversation. And to you, our viewers, wherever you're watching us from, thank you so much for always accepting to be part of this conversation and for always contributing and ensuring that this conversation goes on and on. Next week, we shall meet here, same time, same place. See you. Bye. Thank you so much.